moment to spend some time in prayer. So here's a picture of one of our kids visiting the Wailing Wall. We've moved the Wailing Wall a couple of times for different events, but just wanted to share with you what this is, and I want to take a moment to share some of the prayers that occasionally I'll take prayers out of the Wailing Wall and pray for them, and it's absolutely amazing to see what is on our kids' hearts, and I'd love to share some of those with you this morning because they are deeply touching. So one of the things that was shared was, thank you for giving me a roof over my head. Thank you for heating and a place where I can be me. Thank you. Please help my dad find a job. I really don't like the cross because that's where Jesus died. That's a picture of the cross that's crossed out. I'll actually pass these around. I brought a lot of them because they're very stirring and moving, and I'd love to share that with you all. I need to forgive Sam. My grandma had a heart attack. This one has two smiley faces with a frown face in the middle. And this one, somebody drew a cross with a sun that's frowning overhead. And I love reading these because it's such a reminder that our children are filled with hunger. They are thirsting for God, and they are encountering and experiencing and relating to our living God in a really beautiful and holy way. They are the people of God, just as everyone else in the congregation are the people of God. And yet oftentimes our children are overlooked and pushed to the corner in the church. Children aren't easy to work with. They are busy, and it takes intentionality to nurture their spirituality, but it's incredibly deep, and it's so worth nurturing. I'm going to pass these around just for you to enjoy and take a few moments with. As we all know, the church at large is not growing right now.
Wait, could you tell us how you made your Wailing Wall?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to. So the Wailing Wall is constructed of some solid, like, corkboard at the back. There's some fairly thick corkboard at the back. It's kind of a corrugated, it's almost like a box, but it's some material that someone donated to us, so it's like a heavy, something that you could put a stick pin into, kind of like a bulletin board, but it's about an inch thick, actually, the backing. And then I had some volunteers that took paper lunch bags and stuffed them with paper, garbage, whatever it is that they wanted to stuff it with, all sorts of different things, because it was a lot of stuffing. And then painted, like kind of a spray painting, orange and yellow, and modeled it all over. And you can kind of see there's some fake ivy that kind of goes throughout. And there's a few larger pieces. Then we staple gun these pieces to the backing, and they fall off, and we have to re-staple gun it from time to time, but we've had that for about 2 years. And originally it was designed for a Lenten experience. We had a family Lenten faith event that was on Ash Wednesday, actually 2.5 years ago. And that was what it was originally constructed for, but it's been really meaningful just on a weekly basis to be available, and it blows my mind that these prayers that are written by kids that have the option of playing with Play-Doh at that time, and they're choosing to visit the Wailing Wall and write what's on their mind, which is just such a great insight into what's going on in our kids' mind and how much they need and want this place to engage and interact with the living God who is so alive and at work in their lives. So today I wanted us to have a chance to take some time to go back to the beginning and think about, why does children's ministry matter? Why do we do what we do? We do what we do because the church needs children who want to be a part of the church. The church at large is not growing. The church at large is shrinking very rapidly. I read a study this week that said as of 2004, as few as 17% of Americans attend church on a given Sunday. And there's fewer and fewer people, but that doesn't mean that there's fewer and fewer people hungering for God or relating to God. The yearning within all of us for an encounter with the living God is the same. And we have an opportunity to help our kids encounter God and hopefully have a positive relationship with the kingdom of God and God's people in the church to help them want to continue that and develop a hope for a long-lasting church that is a strong, solid community. So I invited a couple of people to share with us a little bit. You can close the picture. Thank you, Heather, for sharing. Oh, it's kind of bright enough. You can actually really see it. It was kind of dark before. So yeah, you can leave it. That's fine. So it's one of our kids stuffing something into it. It's really fun. But I wanted us to take a look at a couple of different areas. The research coming out of Sticky Faith. How many people are familiar or follow the Sticky Faith group? Fuller Youth Initiative has a really fascinating website and blog where they are constantly dialoguing around ministry to youth, and sometimes they talk about ministering to children. It's usually very compatible, and one of the things that they have learned, and Danny will probably talk about this a little bit, but is that there's a couple of things that cause faith to be sticky, or faith to stick in children as they grow into adulthood and cause those children to want to stay in the church. One of those is being a part of an intergenerational worship experience where they get to worship with adults. And one of those is being a part of a family where they get to talk about their faith outside of just Sundays. So I wanted us to take a look as we think about children's ministry from the perspective of children as spiritual beings, to remember as we look at and read these little notes that children are people who are relating to God just as all of us are. And children are really honest, and so it's really refreshing to get to hear some of the ways that they are honest about their relating to God. And so just remember, we're going to start by remembering that children are spiritual beings. Then I'd love for us to move on, and Jenny's going to talk with us about children as worshipers, that there is this value for intergenerational worship. That's not easy. Kids are noisy, and they move around, and so what does it mean to worship intergenerationally? And then children as family members. Danny's going to talk a little bit about what does it mean to minister to the whole family and to children in the context of family relationships. And so we're going to take a look at those things, and we'll have some Q&A time, so you're welcome to ask some questions of our presenters. And then I want us to just end with some roundtable discussion of sharing what's working at our churches and what we're struggling with. And I would love to invite this group to be an ongoing conversation. There isn't currently a gathering of children's ministers or people interested in children's ministry in the Seattle Presbytery. So I'd love to cultivate space for that so that we could continue this conversation with one another and build those relationships and keep the conversation that we get started on going. So if there are burning questions that you have that don't get answered today, I'm sending around a contact sharing form. If you can keep that going around throughout the day. There it is. Thank you, Allison. And I will email the group that information so that we can know how to get in contact with one another. And I think that would be a great resource for us to be able to use to ask questions of one another and keep conversation going, and then gather together on I was thinking like a quarterly basis. And Mercer Island's a really great central location for a lot of people. I realize not for everybody, but we'd be happy. We are blessed to have great facilities, so we'd be glad to host a quarterly brown bag lunch gathering so we can continue the conversation.